All right, everybody, good afternoon and welcome to another interview with a computer science alumni. So let's start by having you introduce yourself, who you are, what you're doing now, when you graduated, just a few quick questions about that.
I don't even think I can remember when I graduated. My name's Cam. I was actually, I believe, in Mr. Walk's first class of 2002, one of 6 IB computer science kids way back then, which makes me like twice your age, but that's fine. I'm still happily in Winnipeg and still in St. James, working at Unionware, which some of you may remember. We came and visited you in the last couple of years, or came and visited the school. And I am a product manager, which means that I'm the guy who designs and specs and decides where the software is going. I spent a long time as a developer, like more than 10 years, and now I've kind of shifted gears.
That's awesome, Cam. My next question for you is a little bit just about computer science in general. I'm just going to preface this by saying it's a tough time for kids right now, and in general, computer science can be one of those subjects that can get frustrating for a lot of students. It is, as I like to start every intro computer science class, computer science is hard, but everything worth doing is hard. So I'm going to ask you a couple questions. Why did you decide to take computer science when you were in high school?
Because I always loved computers. So growing up, like there were actually computers in the 90s too. And growing up, I'd been around them and whatever. So I took it just because it was a way to combine school computers. And then as a result of being in your class and the other computer classes I took, I fell in love with it. And now, you know, the better part of 20 years later, here we are.
When do you think you got serious about it? Was it in high school?
I would say around high school, yeah. Right around when probably in your class, was when I was like, wait a minute, this might be more than a hobby. This might be what I actually want to do with my life.
So, and this, I know this is a loaded question, but do you think studying it in high school helped?
For me, 100%. Because it had always been a hobby and a passion and fun especially from like, let's be honest, at 13 and 14 and whatever, what mattered was the fact I could play video games. But then this opened up that there were so many other doors, and I would have never guessed that I'd end up here. But chasing that in high school and then just put it one step at a time down the road has worked out wonderfully for me.
Awesome, and I know it has. Okay, so this is a very meta level question, but if you had to go back in time and give yourself advice, the high school Cam advice about whether or not you should pursue computer science, how you should stay motivated, what advice would you give to 17, 16-year-old Cam from Cam now?
Things are going to change as you go. Like I said, I was a developer for 10 years and I loved it. And most of that time I spent going, can I please have my little corner, just like my corner in the basement, where I never have to talk to anybody ever. And I can just write code and do all those things. And now I'm polar opposite. And even 20 or 25-year-old Cam would have never believed that. So one is it's going to change as you go and be different every year and every 5 years and every whatever, and that's totally fine and awesome. The other is I know tons of people who are 15 or 20 years into their professional careers, incredibly smart people who chase bugs for 2 hours and it turns out that they had a 7 somewhere they needed a 6. It happens to everybody, and it's going to keep happening. And that doesn't mean that you're bad at what you do or that you're not learning or whatever. It's just every industry has its own things. And in computer science, it's just the computer's really good at telling it exactly or doing exactly what we tell it to. And sometimes that means we chase things for a very long time, only to realize that we don't know the difference between the number 6 and the number 7. So that stuff will always happen, and that's fine. And it's not that big a deal. I see tons of people early in their career worry about that or worry it's a reflection of their ability. and nothing could be further from the truth. So those are the two things I would remember or tell myself at 16. Oh, and enjoy your hair while you have it.
Awesome, Cam. Awesome. Or even the color of your hair while you have it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Working off of that one, I know there's a lot of kids who take computer science with me, and they love it. They really enjoy programming. They sometimes it's the gaming aspect, sometimes it's just the solving problems or building something that creates. But I also know that over 20 years of teaching, I see students who want to do it, but then they see the hard parts. They see the barriers. Sometimes it's a math course. Sometimes it's, like you said, a problem that they just can't seem to solve. We've all had those as programmers, as developers in our computer science education and professional careers. We've all had those. And I always like to try to give kids this advice that, kind of like a it gets better sort of a thing. But you have a ton of experience in this. What advice would you give to those kids when it starts getting hard, how to get past that? I think for you, it wasn't as hard. You were a kid, from what I definitely remember, math didn't really come that hard to you. Michael,
I should have introduced you to my university professors.
But that we all have those, right? So what advice would you give to those kids when it gets seemingly too hard?
Your self-worth and your value of who you are and the value of your dreams have nothing to do with the assignment or the exam or the piece of work in front of you. It's just one more piece of code. In another year, in another 5 years, it's either not going to matter at all, or it's going to be that hilarious story of the time something went wrong. And everybody I know has shut down a production server or sent an email to 500 people. We worked for a year last year on a payment system. The day it rolled out, we billed the wrong person, an executive at one of our most important clients. We billed her 130 times for a total of about $14,000 US. That was a pretty cruddy day, but it went on, and life happens, and it just keeps going. So when you hit those days, whether it's a bad day, a hard day, an obstacle, whatever, it's nothing to do with you. It's what everybody goes through. And in 5 years, you're just going to tell stories about it.
That's awesome. Hey, well, on the subject, any funny high school stories you remember? My class or any class?
That was a long time ago. Let's see.
As you're thinking, I always say to kids, like, this is in the timeline of your life. This is the time you're in school. This is the time you retire. So, like, there's a lot in between that.
Yeah.
And so, like those math tests that are really hard, or if you're in university, that math course that was really hard, you look back on it as just a blink. You just got to, I say to my daughter now as she graduates, just get through it. In 20 years, it's not going to matter that you got 54 in a calculus course. It just matters that you got through it.
Yeah. Or heck, if you can't get through it, that's fine. Find another way. My version of that is first year calc I did fine. Second year calc I took because I figured it'd be fine. I dropped it after I got a 27 on the midterm. And so I had to change the exact kind of degree I was going after and whatever. And I remember going like, what am I doing here? I haven't thought about that in at least 10 years because it doesn't matter. And it didn't change anything important. At 20, it felt like the end of the world. It wasn't. I haven't come up with a funny high school story yet. Sorry.
That's okay. What's a typical day like for you, Cam?
Honestly, so I have a team of about 8 or 9 folks that work for me. And so we're the team that builds all of the new things. And so my day is usually a hybrid of helping the rest of the company, random other people or clients, with what we did in the last few months, helping my team and testing folks and the QA folks with what we're doing right now, and looking forward into the future and into what we should build now. So honestly, for me, and I love it this way, it's like a constant stream of random little 5, 10, 15-minute conversations or writing things out or whatever. And like I said, I would have never believed that I would like writing specs and like talking to customers and other such things until probably 5 years ago. And so that was at the age of 30, even at the age of 30, I remember thinking I wanted to be a programmer for the rest of my life. So like
In your
it changes all the time. So
yeah. In all your experience managing programmers and even being a programmer, for the kids who are in my class now who are writing code and enjoying it and thinking this is something I can do, how different is like an experience of being a student programming and working on projects to working as a programmer? What's the difference, or is there a big difference?
I don't even know that there is. I think that a certain amount of stuff in the, so maybe I'm going a little too meta, but that's fine. A certain amount of things, both in school and in the real world, just have to get done, and so we just do them. It's not like they're exciting, but it's just a thing that's necessary. So we figure out what somebody needs or what the assignment says to build, and we build it, and we make sure it works, and off it goes. And then sometimes we get the more fun things of, hey, what do you want to do with this, and where do you want to build, and what do you think? And those are for me, those were always the highlights in school, as a developer. And now I love not just getting to do that myself, but when I get to watch other people do it. And so, yeah.
Can I ask one question about that as well? As a teacher, sometimes I tend to focus on things that I don't think students think are important. Things like commenting and style and using the right data structure and stuff like that. And I always hope that I'm putting into them a skill set that will be something they'll look back on and say, you know what, that actually was a good thing to learn. I want you to be completely honest with me in answering this. What things that you learned, say in my class or even in post-secondary, that you wouldn't have at the time thought were important, but are, and conversely, which things that you learned which you thought might be important aren't?
Um, so I think you touched on a few different examples, and I think that's something I learned from you, and then going on to university in more and more depth is like understanding, like really understanding different algorithms and different data types and different whatever, and why they're fast and slow and whatever. And you know what? The 2 months of random assembly that the U of M at least used to make you do was actually really cool for me to understand. I don't do anything anywhere near that anymore. Haven't done it in probably 15 years. But getting up and understanding those fundamentals just comes back in so many ways because you understand how things actually work. And then like seriously comment your code, because you're going to have to, it's not in that. So that is the difference between school and the real world. In school, when you finish that assignment, it goes away and never comes back. In the real world, that little thing that you tuck together on a Thursday because, oh, they're only going to use this for 2 weeks, has a nasty habit of still being in production 5 years later. And there's either you or one other person is the only people that know how it works. So future-proof yourself, because it's going to happen, and you're going to accidentally do it wrong to other people, and other people are going to accidentally do it wrong to you. So good habits. It's totally a thing, because it's amazing how long those little things that don't matter can live for. And then I guess from a things that don't matter as much point of view, I have met a few people over my career that get like super caught up in like nanosecond differences in algorithms, or in like whether there should be 6 spaces or 5 or like whatever else it is. And it's like, it doesn't, being right just to be right doesn't help. You got to solve the problem at hand and stay practical. That's what I'm saying.
That's so awesome, Cam. All right, we want to wrap up, but I want to give you the final word. Feel free to say anything you'd like to wrap this up. If you have a "it gets better" message or just any more last pieces of advice for the kids, the floor is yours, Cam, and I want to thank you for your time today.
I'm humbled for the opportunity, and I'm grateful to get to do this stuff. I love getting to talk to people. So then I'm going to end the same way I ended the last 2 years and say, in all kinds of different ways, everyone watching this is going to make it where they want to make it, whether that means that you end up a lawyer or the best damn carpenter there's ever been or a computer scientist or like, who cares? You're going to make it somewhere, and you're going to get an opportunity to do things like this and help people out and sort of help everybody out, because we're all in this together. And I would recommend more than anything do that, because there's no better feeling and there's no better way to help people out. So we're all in this together.
What a great message, Cam, and a great time to remember that message. Thank you so much for your time, my friend, and we will see you soon.
Absolutely.